October 1871. Chicago was a city of wood, pride, and a devastating drought, a disaster waiting to happen. It was the fastest-growing city on Earth, a hub of trade that had turned the prairie into a metropolis in decades. On Oct 8th, in the O'Leary barn, a single spark ignited. Within minutes, the barn was a roaring furnace. Fueled by fierce winds, the flames leaped from building to building. The wooden sidewalks acted like fuses. A technical failure delayed the alarm. By the time the firemen arrived, the heart of Chicago was already under siege. Thousands fled toward Lake Michigan, standing in the cold water as their world burned behind them. By morning, the city was gone, but the story of its rebirth was just starting. Join us for Part 2. The sun rose on a city that was effectively a smoking graveyard, but the nightmare was only halfway over. On Monday morning, the fire leaped across the main branch of the Chicago River. This was Millionaire's Row, where the city's elite lived in stone and marble palaces. They believed their wealth and solid walls would protect them. They were wrong. The fire didn't just burn buildings, it vaporized them. At the Chicago Historical Society, the original draft of Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation was lost. The curator stayed until the last second, trying to save the documents, but the heat was too intense. Strangely, in the middle of the North Side's complete destruction, one home survived. The Ogden Mansion was saved by its owner and neighbors who fought the flames with wet carpets and every drop of water they had. Thousands more sought refuge at the lakefront. They stood for hours in the freezing water, breathing through wet handkerchiefs as the air itself seemed to catch fire above them. Many stayed in the water until the rain finally came. Late Monday night, a gentle rain began to fall. It was the first rain in months. It didn't put out the fire immediately, but it slowed the monster. By Tuesday morning, the Great Fire was finally, mercifully, over. In the chaos that followed, Mayor Roswell B. Mason declared martial law. General Philip Sheridan took command, using the military to prevent looting and ensure that the incoming aid reached those who needed it most. Aid came from everywhere. New York sent millions in cash. London sent books to restart the library. Even rival cities like St. Louis and Cincinnati sent trains full of food and water, putting aside competition in the face of tragedy. Joseph Medill, editor of the Chicago Tribune, printed his first post-fire edition on October 11th. His headline became the city's rallying cry, "Chicago shall rise again." And they did, with a speed that shocked the world. Because the city center was a blank slate, architects had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They pioneered the use of steel frames, leading to the world's first skyscrapers and the birth of modern urban design. In just 22 years, Chicago went from a smoldering ruin to hosting the world's Columbian Exposition of 1893. They didn't just rebuild, they reinvented the concept of a city. The fire erased Chicago, but the Chicago spirit built something even greater. This concludes our walking tour. Thank you for walking through history with us. "I will," the city's motto, remains its truth today. By 1890, Chicago was no longer a city in recovery. It was a city of destiny. The void left by the Great Fire had been filled by the most ambitious generation of builders in human history. This is the story of how they proved it to the world. In 1893, Chicago hosted the world's Columbian Exposition. Built on 600 acres of marshland, it was a white city of monumental architecture that seemed to appear overnight. It was the ultimate statement of rebirth, attracting 27 million visitors. It was at this fair that Nikola Tesla and George Westinghouse won the War of the Currents. They lit the entire exposition with alternating current, a technological feat that heralded the dawn of the electrical age for all of humanity. Chicago wanted something to rival Paris's Eiffel Tower. George Washington Gale Ferris Jr. answered with a 264-foot revolving wheel. It carried 36 cars, each the size of a bus, offering a view that changed the way humans saw their world. The city's ambition extended even to nature itself. In 1900, engineers completed the reversal of the Chicago River. By digging a massive canal, they forced the water to flow toward the Mississippi instead of the lake, protecting the city's drinking water forever. Chicago became the city of big shoulders. The Union stockyards were the center of the world's meatpacking industry. The fire had turned a frontier town into an industrial titan, feeding the world and driving the American economy. The fire's most lasting legacy might be the safety of every modern city. Chicago's strict post-fire building codes became the global blueprint for fire prevention, leading to the fire escapes and non-combustible materials we take for granted today. Today, Chicago stands as a global beacon of culture, commerce, and architecture. The Great Fire of 1871 is now a distant echo, but the resilience it forged is the city's heartbeat. From the ashes of O'Leary's barn to the top of the Willis Tower, the message remains clear: I will. Thank you for completing this journey with us. Chicago, a city that continues to rise again and again. The 20th century arrived, and Chicago didn't just grow, it exploded. The fire was a memory, but the ambition it forged was now building the world's most iconic skyline. The 1920s were a golden age. Money was flowing, and the city was reaching higher than ever before. The Wrigley Building and the Tribune Tower became the new cathedrals of commerce. In 1933, in the middle of the Great Depression, Chicago hosted another World's Fair, the Century of Progress. It was a neon-lit vision of the future, proving once again that Chicago would never stop looking forward. The Loop, the city's downtown core, became the laboratory for modern urban living. The elevated L trains became the city's pulse, connecting a diverse and growing population to the heart of the machine. After World War II, a new wave of modernism took over. Architects like Mies van der Rohe redefined the city once again with glass and steel, leading to the construction of the iconic Sears Tower, the tallest building in the world for 25 years. Today, the lakefront is a masterclass in urban planning. Millennium Park and the museum campus have turned the city's front yard into a cultural paradise for the world to enjoy. From the ashes of a single barn to the pinnacle of global innovation, Chicago's journey is a testament to the human will. It is a city that erased itself only to become eternal. Thank you for taking this 4-part walking tour of history. This is Chicago, the city of big shoulders, the city of light, and the city that will always rise. I will, then, now, and forever. Thank you for watching. Chicago is more than its skyscrapers and its history of fire. It is a city of neighborhoods, a city of music, and a city of people who brought their cultures from across the globe to the shores of Lake Michigan. In the early 20th century, the Great Migration brought hundreds of thousands of African Americans from the South. They brought with them their dreams, their labor, and a sound that would change music forever. Chicago blues was born here. In clubs like Maxwell Street, the acoustic sounds of the Delta were plugged in and amplified, creating the raw electric pulse that laid the foundation for rock and roll. Chicago is famously a city of neighborhoods. From the vibrant murals of Pilsen to the bustling streets of Chinatown and the historic charm of Andersonville, each area is a world unto itself. You can't talk about Chicago's soul without talking about its food. Deep dish pizza, Italian beef, and the iconic Chicago-style hot dog are more than just meals. They are edible pieces of the city's history. And then there's the sports. Whether it's the Ivy at Wrigley Field, the legacy of the 1985 Bears, or the global phenomenon of Michael Jordan's Bulls, Chicago's passion for its teams is legendary. As we look to the future, Chicago is reinventing itself once again, focusing on sustainability, green tech, and ensuring that the Chicago spirit continues to burn brightly for the next generation. This is Chicago, a city of fire, a city of steel, but most importantly, a city of soul. Thank you for continuing this incredible journey with us. The story of Chicago is still being written, and we are all part of it. I will, the city's heartbeat, lives on,